I think that Android UI has always been better than iOS UI. And maybe instead of using the word better, maybe I should say I just liked it more. I think that it was just more aesthetic. And I'm definitely acknowledging that this is like a personal preference. And I know a lot of people who also prefer Android UI. But what I'm saying now is probably a hot take, because a lot of people think iOS UI is better for a lot of reasons. The consistency, maybe it's more fluent, maybe even more premium. And these are all valid arguments. I'm not trying to disprove any of these. It's just, in my personal opinion, I like Android UI. If we compare Android UI to iOS UI, starting from the oldest versions of the two operating systems, at this stage, both of them kind of looked pretty similar. I mean, at this stage in mobile handset operating system design, there wasn't too much differentiation. This was very much in the skeuomorphic era, the Frutiger arrow era. The concept of UI design for mobile operating systems was just starting, and in my videos, this is sort of what I call the primitive era of Android UI design. And this era is probably where, in my opinion, iOS gets the closest to actually beating Android's UI. It might even be better in these first couple of early years in the late 2000s. The iOS look is a little bit more consistent, polished maybe, and in my opinion, just based on experience, it just can feel a little bit more fluid. Now, the more we progress through the years and the later on we get, it looks like Android UI, in my opinion, is starting to just look better and better, and iOS UI is sort of at a bit of a flat line. It doesn't evolve too much over the years until iOS 7, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. That was 2014, and Android went through a big change then as well, with the paper cut design shift. But we're not there yet. We're still in the early 2010s. We have the pre-Holo era, we have the Holo era, and at this point in time, iOS UI isn't changing too much, while Android UI seems to be changing rapidly year by year. And this is one of the reasons why I actually like the Android UI, is because of this excitement, this unpredictability. I just think it's fun. Now, in the Holo era, I think by this time Android is starting, in my opinion, to look better than iOS. I just really like the sharp edges of Android UI. The colors are a little bit more robotic and spaceship-like. It feels a little bit more techy, a little bit more, I don't know. It's my personal opinion, so I just say it looks more cool. Now, we are moving on to iOS 7 and Android Lollipop. So this is around the year 2014, and mobile operating system UI has already been around for a few seasons at this point. It's been around for a few moons. It's not in its early stages like it used to be, and things are shifting. In 2014, basically everything starts getting flatter across the board, and I'm not even just talking about mobile operating systems. It's sort of a worldwide trend. I really couldn't tell you exactly what sparked it, but I have a theory that it could be a reactionary movement to the very glossy, very skeuomorphic era of Frutiger Arrow, which was the design era right before it. Now it's here where I believe Android really starts to shine with Android Lollipop. Now, Holo was definitely amazing, and a lot of people actually argue that Holo was peak Android UI. And in a sense, I do agree with that. I think there's a lot of that depth and 3D-ness that Android Holo had that sort of left to never return with Android Lollipop. But realistically, for a modern device and living in this world, I think that the paper-cut aesthetic and design language really was a perfect balance between practicality and usability versus retaining that soul, that style, that pleasant and delightful UI. And it was at this time that iOS 7 also changed from their older skeuomorphic look into the iOS 7, the flat, punchy, really actually nice looking design language that we still often see today, although I'll talk about this later. They are sort of changing their UI design language nowadays. Apple is doing some interesting things with UI nowadays. So is Android, and we're going to get there. But now we are back in 2014 and 2015, and at this point I can say that although iOS 7 does look really good, I believe that Android Lollipop really takes the cake, no pun intended. We've got those dessert names here. Okay. Really takes the cake in this era. And this is where Android really starts to shine. You start to have the layering of the material UI design, the different colors, schemes, and themes. The font is really good. I really like the Roboto font. I mean, Apple has great fonts as well, but in contrast to Google's fonts nowadays, especially, Roboto is just a very nice font. It has that little bit of playfulness, that robotic sort of name even, shows its digital sort of vibe. But at the same time, it was respectable, it was clean, it was easy to read, practical. I'm a fan of Roboto. Anyway, side tangent. So we go through the papercut era, and it starts out pretty intense. Like, it really looks like when you're using your phone, you're using something that was made out of paper. And over the years, it sort of becomes less intense. The paper theme sort of starts to fade away into more of just a digital sort of look, less shadows. The dimensions seem to sort of flatten out. And at this time, Android is pretty much Material UI themed. And this is like 2016 is too early. 2017, 2018, 2019 era. So I call this the no-nonsense era. And obviously the beginning of the no-nonsense era was a little bit more paper-cutty, because that was sort of the transition time between the two design languages. And then towards the later 2010s, the beginning of the 2020s, then the design language starts to become more digital, more minimal, less shadows, and it starts to become more rounded. Now, at this time, both of the operating systems are in a very seasoned, more mature stage, and we see that both of them have sort of peaked in practicality and usability, but the look is sort of no frills. It's very utilitarian. So it was at this era too that I still think that Android looked better than iOS. And one thing I didn't mention is the animations. I think Android animations, and this might really be a hot take because iOS is often praised for its animations, while it's true that there are things on iOS that don't compare on Android. For example, the really detailed 3D animation you get when you connect AirPods to your phone and stuff like that. There are those like special things that you can't really compare to Android, but in general, like the general animations, in my opinion, of the operating system, I really like it on Android. It feels snappy. I want to say it feels a little bit more playful. There's a little bit more charm there. Like I like, in Android when you get to the bottom of a screen to show that you've hit the end of the menu. I'm not sure if it does this anymore on Material U, because I haven't used it in a little bit, but on the older versions of Android, I know just a couple years ago, the bottom of the screen would show a sort of bubble kind of thing to indicate to the user that you've reached the end of the menu, and it was just stuff like that, little embellishments throughout the animations, throughout the operating system, that was just cute. I even think the mascot of the operating system, the Android, that just shows the charm, the sort of the fun of the operating system. And obviously, of course, I forgot to mention this before, the dessert naming scheme really, really adds to this flavor, again, no pun intended, of the operating system, where it just infuses a little bit of fun, some soul, some charm into the operating system and makes it more delightful, more pleasant. This is really a blend of UX and UI right now. We're talking about the user experience, the psychology of how the user feels, and how it feels to use the product, and how that is influenced by how the products are designed, how they're named, and how they are, I guess, even marketed. You have the Bug Droid mascot. We're going strong. Android is sort of in a mature era. It's the early 2020s. The operating system looks good. In my opinion, it still is better than iOS in many ways. And like I said before, I prefer the look of it. So where does everything go downhill? You saw the title of the episode. Then you know that, in my opinion, Android UI has been through a decline, a downfall, if you will, and a rather steep one at that. So I think I'm entering into controversial territory right now in terms of UI people, Android people, phone people. I don't know, this may be a hot take. I do know for sure that a lot of people agree with me on this, that I actually quite dislike Material U. It feels like they are taking away a lot of what made Android such a pleasant experience. The colors are wonky. I think the weird fonts are just a little ugly, a little bizarre. I think everything just feels a little on the nose. It's a little too, I don't want to say babyish, but playful in a simple, dare I even say, almost insulting kind of way. I just feel like it kind of got dumbed down. There's less customization, despite the fact that they're trying to sell it as more personable, more customizable. It's actually, I think it's the opposite. I think you could do more. Before with Android in terms of the UI design, and related, Google seems to be getting rid of other customization options having to do with Android, besides the aesthetic of the UI. Like, There's less options for sideloading, for rooting, for things that you can do with the actual operating system itself besides just what you can do in the UI. Well, that's a topic for another time. So in my opinion, the downfall of Android UI started with Material U. And now there's Material Design Expressive, and really it just keeps kind of getting worse. And I'm just sort of waiting and holding tight for this era of Android UI design to come to a close because, as we know, as we see from Android's history, from the primitive era to the pre-holo era to the holo era to the paper cut to the no frills and then to the Material U, Android goes through phases, and every 2 or 3 years there's just another design language. So I'm kind of holding tight and waiting for this design language to be over, but for now I'm actually using iOS because I think at this point in time, this isn't the only reason I'm on iOS, but one of the reasons is that I think iOS actually just looks better than Android at this point. And this is the first time that I'm saying that in a while. I think Material U is just really kind of a downgrade. And on a deeper level, I think it takes out a lot of the reason why people like Android so much in the first place. Like if people want a phone that is very fluid and easy to use, but also doesn't let the user have so much control and kind of feels a little bit locked down, then there was iOS for that. There's iPhone for that. And that's a totally valid thing to want in a phone. There's a lot of things I love about iOS, and some of those things included, and that's a great option. But that's iOS's niche. I think that Android just had a different niche, and that was more techie people. People who wanted something a little bit more customizable, something you could fiddle more with, do more with. It just has that sort of connotation, has that vibe, and it felt a little bit more fun, a little bit more, I don't know, it's hard to even describe, but it kind of felt more like Pebble, if you guys are familiar with the company Pebble, in that it's like, it feels like it doesn't really insult your intelligence too much. Not to say that iOS does, but Android in the past for sure didn't. Material U, however, is just, it's a whole different story. Now, that's not to say that Material U is all bad. I definitely don't want to say that, and I don't want to put any hate on Google or Android or anything in this episode. I really like Google as a brand. I really like Android. The Pixel phones are amazing. I just, noticed something, and I wanted to sort of put my ideas out there, put my thoughts out there. It's all subjective, obviously, and it doesn't lessen my liking of Google or Android. Now, that being said, and this isn't the main topic of today's episode, but it definitely factors in, is I don't think iOS UI nowadays is all that good either. Rather, I would say that both of them aren't so great right now. If you take a look at the iOS UI, now Apple's done something strange as well, and they've given the UI sort of a mini overhaul when it really wasn't necessary. There's a lot of theories for why they did this. Some say it was a way to distract the public from their sort of flop with AI, and they were using the excitement and distraction of the new design language as a cover-up, if you will, a sort of cover-up. But I will say that their new design language and overhaul does feel just kind of bizarre, a little bit un-Apple, a little bit strange. First of all, it's not very consistent across the operating system. There are some things that have the new glass, refracted light, bubbly, reflective, I guess, kind of look. It seems like it's sort of a nod to Frutiger Aero. I think there's a possibility they decided to do it like that on purpose because they know that there's a little bit of a comeback with Frutiger Aero, a grassroots sort of nostalgia for the aesthetic, for the design language, and so maybe they're playing into that a little bit. I'm going to make a future episode about the quote-unquote comeback of Frutiger Aero, whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, if it's going to happen. Anyway, for now, I will say that the new app logos and designs on iOS just don't do it for me. I'm not a fan of the translucent kind of neomorphic glass sort of look. There is more texture, there is more depth, but in my opinion, people aren't like, oh, depth, it's good. Oh, 3D equals amazing. No, if it's aesthetic, if it's pleasant to look at, if it's easy to use, then that is what makes a design likable. Simply just adding shadows and dimensions everywhere, well, that just doesn't do it. And it seems like this new version of iOS, it has the shadows, it has the overlapping textures, it has even more of a skeuomorphic vibe. I mean, if you take a look at the new camera application icon, but it has all of the factors that me and a lot of other people talk about in terms of the good old days and earlier design languages and Figaro and nostalgia for that. But if the use factor is missing, if the cohesive and consistent factor is missing, then it really doesn't matter too much. It's not those specific traits that we're all striving for, that we're all craving for. It's the whole holistic experience of using that operating system. And iOS 26 feels a little bit inconsistent. It seems like we're in a little bit of a low point in mobile operating system UI design, and it's probably just a little dip that we're going to get out of soon, and hopefully there will be new styles and designs to come that are even better. Another thing about iOS 26 is that all of the added textures and shadows and just stuff seems to kind of slow down some older systems, can make things a little bit more choppy, which is also not a good thing. At the end of the day, it's not all about UI, it is about UX, and what makes a good UI, a pleasant UI, is one that doesn't sacrifice usability for aesthetics, because then just look at a picture of it, right? The fact that it's a UI means it also has to have good animations and it flows well. And not to say that iOS 26 is bad in any way. It's obviously a great operating system. It's iOS. I mean, it's hard to mess up iOS. It's very solid. But I'm just being a nitpicky podcast person right now and just giving my opinions. It feels like we're in a very interesting era of mobile UI design right now. I don't know where we're going next, but in general, I feel like there's really only two things on the market right now. There's Android and there's iOS. And when both of those options just aren't really doing it for me, I can only think of inventing my own thing, making my own operating system, my own UI, my own phone that has UI that is pleasant, that is easy to use, that's playful and then fun, but also practical. A phone whose operating system and UI doesn't insult the user, that can allow for some customizability, some control. It doesn't try and be like iOS, doesn't try to fill iOS's niche. iOS already is filling that niche very well on the market. It seems like there's an open spot on the market where the old Android used to be. Well, that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.